As most folks know by this point, Hatha Yoga is a branch of yoga. In Sanskrit, the word Hatha literally means force and thus alludes to a system of physical techniques in motion. In South Asia, Hatha Yoga is associated in popular tradition with the yogis of the Nata Sampradaya through its traditional founder, Matsyendranath, who is celebrated as a saint in both Hindu and Buddhist tantric and Hatha Yoga schools. Almost all Hatha Yogic texts belong to the Nat Siddhas, and the important ones are credited to Matsyendranath's disciple Goraknath or Gorakshanath. According to the Dattatreya Yoga Sastra, there are two forms of Hatha Yoga. One practiced by Yajnavalkya, consisting of 8 limbs of yoga, and the other practiced by Kapila, consisting of 8 mudras. The Nat, as a reminder, also called Nata, are a Shaiva sub-tradition of Hinduism, a sort of Shaiva series of schools. They begin during the medieval period and combined ideas from Buddhism, Shaivism, and various yogic traditions in South Asia, and have been viewed as a sort of confederation of devotees who consider Shiva to be their first lord or guru specifically, with varying lists of additional gurus after Shiva. The Nat tradition has extensive Shaivism-related literature of its own, most of which is traceable to the 11th century of the Common Era or later. However, its roots are in far more previous, far more ancient, far more old Siddha traditions. A notable aspect of the Nat tradition practice has been its refinements and use of various forms of yoga, particularly Hatha Yoga, to transform one's body into a sahaja siddha, a state of the awakened self's identity with absolute reality. An accomplished guru, that is a yoga and a spiritual guide, is considered essential for this practice, and they have historically been known for their own esoteric and relatively heteropraxic position with regard to other schools of Hinduism. Yoga as exercise relies upon the transmission of yoga, especially Hatha Yoga, to various places in the world through the teachings of individual gurus. For example, Swami Kuvalayananda, who's pictured on the right-hand side of this slide, and Tirumala Krishnamacharya, who's pictured on the left-hand side of the slide, were two very prominent gurus for the Hatha Yoga tradition. Swami Kuvalayananda was a researcher as well as educator as well, but he's known for his pioneering ideas about how there are scientific foundations to yoga. He started a scientific research on yoga in right around 1920, and then published the first scientific journal specifically devoted to studying yoga, Yoga Mimamsa, in 1924. Most of his research took place in the Kaivalyadhamma Health and Yoga Research Center at Lonava, which he founded in 1924. He has been a profound influence on the development of the notion of yoga as exercise, especially in parts of East Asia, parts of Southeast Asia, Southwest Asia, Europe, and also North America. And the second teacher here, Tirumala Krishnamacharya, who only recently passed away, well, relatively recently, in 1989, recently in the context of our course, is a South Asian Indian yoga teacher an Ayurvedic healer, as well as a scholar. He was often referred to as the father of modern yoga, in reference to this notion of yoga as exercise. Krishnacharya was widely regarded as one of the most influential yoga guru teachers of the 20th century. Like earlier pioneers, he was influenced by physical culture such as Yogendra and also the teacher on the right, the Swami. He contributed to the revival of Hatha Yoga in the 20th century. Krishnacharya held degrees in all 6 of the Vedic darshanas as well, or various schools of Vedic Indian philosophies from Indian institutions. While under the patronage of the king of Mysore, Krishnaraja Wadiyar IV, Krishnamacharya traveled around India giving lectures and demonstrations to promote yoga. And these would be sort of massive public demonstrations, including such feats as apparently stopping his heartbeat. Now, Krishnamacharya is widely considered to be the architect of vinyasa, in the sense of combining breathing, controlled meditation, breathe in, breathe out, with movement, right? So downward facing dog, breathe in, breathe out, that kind of stuff. That's vinyasa. The style of yoga he created has come to be known as Viniyoga or Vinyasa Krama Yoga. Underlying all of Krishnamacharya's teachings is a singular principle, the idea that the guru should teach what is appropriate for an individual student, not treat each individual student the same, treat them as individuals. And in that way, you would have a more egalitarian pedagogical approach. So it's a sort of different interpretation from previous gurus in yogic traditions. Now, while Hatha Yoga practice is complex and requires certain characteristics of the yogi, there are texts that guide this. For example, the section 1.16 of the Hatha Yoga Pradipika, for example, states these to be a sort of series of collected concepts. Utsaha, enthusiasm or fortitude, sahasa, courage, dharya, patience, jnana tattva, essence for knowledge, nishchaya, resolve or determination, and tyaga, some type of solitude or renunciation. Hatha Yoga is typically understood as asanas, and it can be practiced as such, these individual poses. In South Asian and especially Tibetan traditions, Hatha Yoga is much more than this, however. It extends well beyond being a sophisticated physical exercise and system that integrates other practices to a system that dictates ethics, diet, cleansing, pranayama, breathing exercises, meditation, and a system for spiritual development of the individual yogi. Hatha Yoga teaches various steps of inner body cleansing with consultations of one's yoga teacher or guru. Its texts vary in specifics and number of cleansing methods, ranging from simple hygienic practices to the peculiar exercises such as reversing seminal fluid flow. The most common list is called the Shaktakarmas, or the 6 cleansing actions, known as Dauti, cleansing the teeth and body, Basti, cleansing the rectum, Neti, cleansing nasal passages, Prataka, cleansing the eyes, Nauli, abdominal massage to cleanse the abdomen, and Kapalabhati, cleansing phlegm. The actual procedure for cleansing varies by the Hatha Yoga text, some suggesting a water wash and others describing the use of cleansing aids such as a cloth and other practices. The Hatha Yoga Pradipika text dictates almost a third of its verses to meditation, furthermore. Similarly, other major texts of Hatha Yoga, such as the Shiva Samhita and the Granda Samhita, discuss meditation in great detail. In all three of these texts, meditation is the ultimate goal of preparatory cleansing, asanas, pranayama, and other steps of Hatha Yoga. The aim of this meditation is to realize the Nada Brahman, or the complete absorption and union with the Brahman through inner mystic sound. According to Guy Beck, a scholar of yoga, a professor of religious studies, known for his studies of yoga and music, a Hatha yogi in this stage of practice, this advanced stage of practice, is supposed to seek, quote, inner union of physical opposites into an inner state of samadhi that is described by the Hatha Yoga texts in terms of divine sound, such as the union with the Nada Brahman in musical literature. So, to get at what this means, the Shabda Brahman, or the Sabda Brahman, or the Nada Brahman, is a notion of transcendental sound. Shatapatha Brahman text describes this. There's also another mention in the same text of sound vibration as the Nada Brahman, or the transcendental sound of the Vedas, or Vedic scriptures. So the sort of music of the Vedas is understood to be the music or the tonality that pervades ultimate reality, the entirety of the universe. And the point of Hatha Yoga is to unify oneself with this universal tonality. So as we think back, Hatha Yoga is a branch of yoga that shares numerous ideas with other forms of yoga, such as the previous and older system taught by Patanjali. The differences are in the addition of some aspects and concepts, as well as different emphases on concepts. For example, pranayama is crucial in all yogas, but it is the mainstay of Hatha Yoga. Mudras and certain Kundalini-related ideas are included in Hatha Yoga, but not mentioned in the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. Patanjali Yoga considers asanas important, but dwells less on various asanas than Hatha Yogic texts do. In contrast, Hatha Yogic texts consider meditation as important, but dwell less on meditation methodology than Patanjali Yoga does. The Hatha Yoga texts acknowledge and refer to Patanjali Yoga, attesting to the latter's antiquity. However, this acknowledgement is essentially only in passing, as they offer no serious commentary or exposition on Patanjali's system. This suggests that Hatha Yoga developed as a branch of more ancient yoga. According to the scholar P.V. Khan, Patanjali Yoga concentrates more on yoga of the mind, while Hatha Yoga focuses more on yoga of the body and health. Some Hindu texts do not recognize this distinction, however. For example, the Yoga Tattva Upanishad teaches a system that includes all aspects of Yoga Sutras of Patanjali and all additional elements of Hatha Yoga practice. This being said, you could begin to think about some comparisons. How do these comparisons between Hatha Yoga and Patanjali Yoga reshape our understanding of the history of yoga? Go ahead and make a quick post and let's keep the discussion going.